Welcome, everyone, to our episode of Milk Minutes presented to you by Healthy Starts Center for Urban Breastfeeding. I will be your host tonight. My name is Ashli Hull, and I'm the Program Manager of the Center for Urban Breastfeeding, affectionately known as the CUB. The Center for Urban Breastfeeding is a Healthy Start initiative to address and bridge the gap of breastfeeding initiation for Black mothers and Black babies. Our services are specifically targeted to Black mothers residing in Allegheny County. All of our services are free. Our services include telephone, virtual, and in-home support. Access to lactation professionals through our latch line is easy as just calling 412-545-2022 and choosing option 1. And you will be connected to a lactation professional in less than 20 minutes. We also offer Breastfeeding 101 classes where we get our families prepared to breastfeed successfully. In this class, you'll get to know the process of how breast milk is made, how to maintain your supply, and when you should reach out for help. This year, we will be launching our Pump It Up class that will prepare our families for their pump journey. We also offer monthly education through our Milk Minutes. This is where we discuss breastfeeding topics live, and all you have to do is just join us via Facebook. Tonight's topic is weaning from breastfeeding. Our guest tonight is Yazmin Bennett-Kelly. Yasmin is the Birth Initiative Director at Healthy Start and manages Allegheny County's Infant Health Equity Plan that provides community-based interventions and systems change approaches to improving Black maternal and child health while reducing poor birth outcomes among Black families. As a first-time mother and a former educator, Yazmin is extremely dedicated to equity and racial justice. I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change, and I'm changing the things I cannot accept. This simple yet profound quote summarizes Yazmin's personal and professional pursuits, displaying a willingness to problem solve with a firm belief that with strategy, transparency, and focused efforts, significant results will follow. While her title and role has changed many times over the years, equity has remained at the center of her work. She is committed to having courageous conversations about race and advancing equity for Black women, parents, babies, and families. Welcome, Yazmin, to Milk Minutes.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I am so excited to have you join us tonight. As mentioned in our previous episode, I shared that I admired so many of my coworkers who were able to breastfeed and still go to work. And you were one of those many coworkers that I was speaking of. So it's so exciting to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
So tonight's session, we will really want to just get to know how, as a first-time mom, how weaning has been for you and your daughter. But before we jump into weaning, can you just share a bit about your breastfeeding journey?
Yes. So I was fortunate enough to breastfeed for 18 months and also very fortunate enough to have a mother who breastfed me for a year. And so because I had that support from my mother, I felt very comfortable from day one. I knew I was going to breastfeed. I was very confident that I would breastfeed for at least a year. And so when the journey started, that was just all that was on my mind. I was like, I'm going to breastfeed my child. This is how she'll eat. I'll save money. I won't have to buy formula. And so for me, it was just like, oh, this is how I feed my child. And then once she actually latched and I started to breastfeed, my whole life changed. I mean, I felt the oxytocin with every single letdown, every time I fed her up until the 18 months when she finished. So for me, it was just this magical experience making her milk, especially like when she was on the breast. Pumping is not always so glamorous, being tied up and hooked up to a machine. But I still did it and, I made it work. I was excited to see how much milk I was producing. But for me, there was nothing like holding your baby and just being so bonded with them and so close with them and being able to nurture them. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that it sounds amazing. And then I also know how highly you spoke of just the connection that you had with your baby, with Lauren, and
Yeah.
how much you prioritize. I remember us traveling and for a work trip, and you were making sure you were pumping, making sure you were
Yeah.
storing your milk and prioritizing providing food for her.
Absolutely. I would say I definitely had a lot of anxiety about the milk, and I hope that any mom who is feeling that sort of like postpartum anxiety, like I hope that they will reach out to a lactation professional, a mental health professional, because as much as I'm grateful for the success, there were a lot of those moments where I was just like overthinking and overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I'm going on this trip. I hope I make enough milk. And I was really thinking really deeply about like how much do I need to make for this trip so that she can have enough while I'm away. So I would just say, like, for any mom who is out there and they are traveling or they're just trying to do other things while lactating, just like consider the support that's around you because it doesn't have to be as difficult as we can make it to be sometimes.
Absolutely. And like you said, the support is available and it is free. Yes. So
Absolutely.
with traveling or just going back to work or just additional supports, we're able to assist with that as well.
That's
Thank you. So I
awesome.
want to jump right into your weaning and how did that look for you? So you said that you breastfed for 18 months, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Did you
So
go in
I
knowing that you were going to breastfeed for 18 months or
So
did you?
my plan was 24. I was like, once she turns two, like I'm gonna be that mom. I'm gonna, wean her as soon as she turns two. And I was under the impression that she would slowly start to wean herself. I was like, oh, she's getting older. She's starting to eat all this different food. Like she's not gonna want this anymore. And so around like I would say like around 16 months, that's when I started to try to wean because I was like, I know that at 24 months, it's not just going to be a cold turkey, light switch, turn it off, and now she's done with breast milk. So I was like, well, let me start weaning day feeds for now, and then hopefully by the time she's two, she won't be interested in breast milk. Well, the joke was on me because I tried to wean and she would have tantrums. I mean, just full blown, like going off, kicking, screaming, hitting, grabbing my shirt. I remember around Christmas time, she kept like reaching, trying to get my breast, and I was like, no, baby, no milk, and I'm trying to give her distractions. And she broke my new necklace that I got for Christmas because she snatched it off my neck. And I had to like put myself in timeout. Moms know sometimes you have to like walk away because I'm like, I'm stressed because I'm trying to stay strong and not give in. But at the same time, like she's so upset and it was hard to deal with that. So I would say like around that time, 16 months is when I tried to wean from the day feeds and I just had to stay consistent. And then eventually I was able, it actually was probably more like 14 months. And then I was actually able to wean her from the day feeds with doing like distractions. So, like, here's a cracker, here's a little veggie puff, like, here's something else, here's a banana. Or I would do a silly dance or like just do something to get her attention, like thinking about something else. And that was okay. But the night feeds, I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
That was the hardest part for you?
The hardest part, I'm pretty sure, like, I know, like, this isn't like the true word for it, but I'm pretty sure she was cluster feeding at night as like a 1.5 old baby.
As if you think
Um,
it was a means to like stay connected with you?
mhm. She was
Yeah.
waking up off the clock. It was like there was a point where she was nursing even more as a like growing toddler than she was as a small baby. And it was exhausting. Yes, just tossing and turning and nursing, and then wake up again and nursing, and it was a lot. And
That
so
is
for me, I that was where the struggles really came, and that's when I realized because I had gotten to a point where I was like, you know what, I just won't wean her. I'm just gonna stop trying. Plenty of moms just don't wean and they let it happen naturally. And then there are those voices in the breastfeeding community that are like, well, you just let them tell you when they're done. And I was like, okay, I'll try that way. I'll see what happens. But from the lack of sleep, I was becoming so miserable. And I was like, I can't be the best mom I can be or the best me for me if I'm not well. And so that's when I realized, like, you know what? We're going to have to go harder.
yeah,
So.
yeah. And so how did that look? Did you when she would wake up and want those cluster feedings after you decided that you wanted to go harder?
So after I decided I wanted to go harder, I would keep trying and trying to just not give it to her, but I couldn't stop. Like she was crying so much, I could not do it. And so like I would try to say no to some feeds throughout the night, not all of them, but maybe like her first wake up, I would just comfort her. Maybe I'm patting her back or doing something else to comfort her, sing a song. And for the first feed, it might work. And then for the next feed, it's not working. So just slowly, I would take away one feed, but still, I don't think it was enough to really make a difference. So for me, what really did it was I went on a trip. I booked myself a solo trip and I was gone for about 4.5 days. And when I got back, she asked for milk once or twice, and that was it. So her daddy, he was holding it down, and he said it was a rough week. Like it was very rough. She was very fussy, lots of tantrums, but she made it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like that was a lot of help, and it was nice that you were you were able to book that solo trip and kind of help her go
Yes.
cold turkey. So
Right.
during this transition, though, did you have any guilt? Did you feel, how did you feel?
Had a lot of guilt just because I know, like I said, so many moms are like, well, you tell them when they're ready. And I got some judgment from folks that were like, well, you shouldn't listen to them scream and, be upset like that. So that was hard for me. And then other than that, I would say it wasn't really guilt because like she's smart, she's brilliant, she's healthy, she's eating all these other nutritious meals. And so once I think about that, I'm like, you know what? She's okay, she's good. I did my part and we're fine. What I will say though is while I definitely did wean cold turkey, I know, and I know like you would know this as a professional in the breastfeeding and lactation space, like it's definitely not recommended. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't recommend for folks to do it that way, especially because I was having some discomfort in my breast. And so I did lean on like natural remedies. I used some cabbage leaves and like warm compress and things like that. But I just felt like I was at the point in my journey where it was like, I need to do this right now.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage anyone who is going on that path to like prepare. So if you are going on a trip or going to spend time at family's house or whatever, like make sure you are prepared for that. If you need, ibuprofen or cabbage leaves, if you want to take your hand pump. And so for me, I didn't have any of those things while I was away. So I would just hand express just enough so that I was not super uncomfortable. So yeah.
So you mentioned that once you came back from the trip that she did have tantrums, but pretty much she was in her new routine. What did that
Mm-hmm.
new routine look like?
It was a little difficult because she had been nursed to sleep every single night unless we were not literally physically in the same space. And so it was a little hard for me at first because I'm like, am I going to know how to comfort my baby? How will I put her to sleep? What are we going to do? And so I remember that night when I came home, I tried to put her to bed and I'm sitting there rocking her and everything's going okay. And then she says the words, Mama Milk. And my heart just dropped. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. We can't do Mama Milk. And I'm like, we came way too far. And luckily, she was just like, okay. And then just went to sleep. And so
Oh,
every night, though, it was just a little bit of anxiety because I was like, oh my goodness, what if she asks? And what if I like give in and I give it to her? And
mhm.
even just a few weeks ago, she asked. And now she's 21 months and she was like, Mama Milk. And it's almost like she wants to see, like, can I still get that? Like,
Right, right. Just to
right.
see if you'll,
Like if I'll budge. Yeah.
yeah. I really appreciate you taking this time and sharing your journey with all of us tonight.
Yeah.
Before we conclude our conversation, from your experience, did you have any tips or tricks you want to share with our viewers tonight?
I would say the greatest like tips or tricks are to step out of your comfort zone and just consider anything an opportunity for a distraction for your baby. You can give them water because at this time, as much as it's nurturing for them and it's nutritious, a lot of it really is comfort feeding. So unless your baby has some type of need identified by the doctor, I would say do a dance, pick a silly song, like make them laugh, make them smile, and just stay strong. And also try to quiet out the other voices because there's so many different opinions, especially in all of these like mom groups and different settings. You'll hear so many things. So you have to figure out what works for you. If you decide you don't want to wean at this time, that is absolutely fine. But if you also decide I'm done and my time is up with this, there's nothing wrong with that.
Thank you. That is great advice too. And then also to highlight that everyone's journey is different, everyone's child is different. And although there may be suggestions, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a good fit for you and your child. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again for joining us tonight. Thank you, Yasmin. I appreciate you
Thank
taking the
you.
time sharing your weaning journey with us.
Absolutely.
Again, this is presented by Healthy Start Center for Urban Breastfeeding. We will be holding these discussions once a month, and we look forward to seeing everyone who's viewing at our next episode. Be sure to tell a friend to tell a friend and tell a friend to join in because we're giving out great information. And also for lactation support, please call us. Our latch number is 412-545 888-2022 option 1. And if you are not yet, please follow us on all of the sites. And everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you.